The smell of scorched circuitry and fried noodle oil lingered in the air like a bad joke. The marketplace, if you could still call it that, had been half obliterated in what some optimistic merchant would later describe as a minor skirmish between two rival supply ships. A few stalls still stood, their metallic ribs creaking under collapsing tarps, flickering lights stuttering above like dying stars. Shattered synth glass crunched underfoot as civilians stumbled past with arms full of whatever they could salvage. No one looked down, no one wanted to see her. She lay half-buried beneath the collapsed sign of a noodle cart, the words, "Now with 200% more shrimp," blinking feebly above her. Her skin shimmered faintly in hues that hurt the eye, violet curling into deep red, patterns shifting like magnetic sand in slow orbit. One arm, too long and jointed in the wrong places to be human, twitched at odd intervals. Her chest rose and fell in irregular, shallow breaths. Her eyes were closed, not that anyone noticed. People passed by with the practiced indifference of those used to stepping over bodies. Some spared her a glance, most just kept walking. A few looked longer, uncertain whether she was a person or a bomb. One woman muttered, "Poor thing," in the way one might remark about a broken vending machine. A security bot hovered nearby, made a half-hearted injury-detected beep, then zipped off to write a report it would never file. And then came the sound of boots. Not the precise, rhythmic click of authority, not the silent, slinking pace of looters. No, these boots had personality. They shuffled, hesitated, kicked a can by accident, then cursed loudly. Great. Kicked a can of beans, or was it coolant? Probably both. Who packages coolant in cans anyway? The man turned the corner. Human, possibly. Stubble like a rogue ecosystem, jacket held together with zip ties, and a tool belt that looked like it might explode if you sneezed near it. He paused when he saw her. His eyes narrowed. He blinked, once, twice, then knelt. "Well," he muttered, scratching his neck, "either you're one of those new biometric weapon pods or someone's idea of a very pretty hallucination. Judging by the twitching, I'm going with not dead yet. Congrats." She didn't move. He leaned closer, squinting. "Also not exploding, that's a plus." His name was Lennox, just Lennox. People who had tried to get more than that out of him usually ended up learning his preferred brand of instant coffee and nothing else. He reached into his belt and pulled out a scanner, which promptly sparked and died in his hand. Okay, no need to be dramatic," he told the scanner, giving it a gentle slap. "Just trying to check for vitals. It's not like I'm a doctor or a vet or whatever she'd need. She's got like extra knees." The woman stirred slightly, emitting a soft sound that was somewhere between a sigh and a low-frequency ping. "That's either pain or a signal requesting backup," Lennox muttered. "Time to flip the coin." Without further commentary, he pulled off his jacket, old, patched, mildly radioactive in the left sleeve, and carefully draped it over her. Her skin shimmered against the dull fabric, and he winced as he realized she was colder than a cryochamber at midnight. "Okay, up we go," he said, hooking his arms under her. She was heavier than she looked, dense, like someone had crammed a planet's worth of trauma into her frame. He groaned. "Oh, stars, you are not asterisk light. Did your bones get reinforced with neutronium? You alien types always skip leg day, but overdo the spinal plating." She made no response, which he took as agreement. Staggering to his feet, Lennox began the slow, undignified march back to his pod. On the way, a few onlookers raised their brows. One man asked if she was for sale. Lennox didn't answer, unless the sharp gesture with his middle finger counted. His place was a converted cargo pod on the edge of the docking sector, stuck between a noodle kiosk and a cryo-coffin repair shop. The pod door had to be kicked 3 times and sweet-talked before it agreed to open. Inside, the space was a chaotic collage of tools, wires, half-eaten snack wrappers, and at least 2 gadgets that hummed ominously. Lennox laid her down on his couch, a thing made from scavenged shuttle seats and patched insulation foam, and stood back, hands on hips. "Well, you've ruined my day, my back, and probably my couch. Welcome." She didn't move. He got to work. First, med spray, which he applied with the same delicacy one might use to paint an angry cat. Then a patch-up of what looked like a cracked organic filament running along her side. Finally, he set a field generator to emit healing frequencies, assuming she wouldn't fry it with some stray energy pulse. She stayed unconscious, but her breathing evened out. Lennox sat down on an overturned storage crate side and looked at her. She was strange, beautiful in the way distant stars were beautiful, cold, dangerous, fascinating. "You're lucky I'm curious," he told her. Could have left you under that 200% shrimp sign. But knew I just had to see what the glowing alien lady with the broken limbs was about. That's me, Lennox, terminally incapable of minding my own business. The only reply was the soft whir of the healing unit. He picked up a wrench, fiddled with it for a while, then looked back at her. I'm gonna call you Vera, he said. Don't ask why, you just look like a Vera unless you hate it. You can file a complaint when you wake up. There's a clipboard somewhere. She twitched slightly. He took that as a win. As the pod settled into its usual creaks and hums, Lennox leaned back, propped his feet on a crate, and muttered, "Just another Tuesday, huh?" Somewhere in the corner, a bot powered up with a confused chirp, scanned Vera, and promptly short-circuited. Sparks danced across the floor. Lennox didn't even look up. Yup, just another Tuesday. Vera woke up mid-reboot and immediately tried to incinerate the ceiling. To be fair, her instincts were still tangled in emergency override loops. The last thing she remembered was energy fire, static shock through her chest, and the sensation of falling, through gravity, through failure, through a silence that didn't belong to space but to abandonment. So when her optic interface flickered back online and registered *unknown habitat, air content, 72% oxygen, 18% nitrogen, 6% mystery *, she reacted the way any half-functional exo-soldier might. With a low growl, her left hand snapped forward, firing a pulse directly into the ceiling, which responded by catching fire, hissing, and dropping a ceiling fan onto a workbench. A coffee mug exploded in protest. From behind a crate, a voice yelled, "Wakey, wakey, no need to redecorate." She turned sharply. Her joints ached. Her muscles were still calibrating. Her visual system glitched, briefly interpreting the man crouching behind the crate as a three-legged goat in a bathrobe. A second later, it resolved. "Good morning," Lennox said, popping his head up with a lopsided grin. His hair was sticking in 5 directions, and he was holding a fire extinguisher that appeared to be mostly duct tape. Or evening. Hard to tell in space. Technically, you've been unconscious for 17 cycles, I think. My chronometer got magnetized by your spleen. Vera blinked. She tried to sit up. Her body complained. She narrowed her eyes at him. "You moved me." "Yep, you were leaking everywhere. Left a trail of glowing goop across the market. Looked like someone murdered a glow stick. I could have self-destructed. I know I took the risk. Figured if you exploded, at least I'd go out doing something exciting. Like cradling an angry space goddess in my arms." She stared at him, trying to decode the intent. He didn't seem afraid or malicious, just slightly caffeinated and very inconvenient. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse and strangely intimate, like it hadn't been used in years. "My place," Lennox said proudly. "It's not much, but it's got charm. And suspicious stains. Don't touch the fridge. It's been haunted since last Tuesday." She scanned the pod again. Makeshift living space. Tools everywhere. A wall-mounted screen looping something involving animated lizards and spaceships. The air filtration unit was held together with chewing gum and stubbornness. There was no sign of military discipline or surveillance. "You're not with the Confederacy." He snorted. "They kicked me out after I accidentally disabled a whole fleet's nav systems by plugging in my toaster. In my defense, the toaster asterisk was also a data drive. Kind of. Then why?" He tilted his head. "Why save me?" She clarified, irritation rising in her chest like a pressure fault. Lennox stood up slowly, stretched, and walked over to her, not too close but without fear. He shrugged. "You were broken. I fix broken things." "It's a compulsion." She stared. Her people didn't do charity, didn't do warmth. They did strategy, power, obedience. This man did burnt toast and bad jokes. She found herself unable to categorize him. Her hand twitched. Energy sparked weakly at her fingertips. "Still hostile, huh?" he said, holding up his hands. "Look, if you want to melt my face off, give me a second to grab my backup face. It's slightly more symmetrical anyway." A beat passed. She lowered her hand. "Progress," he said cheerfully. "Also, I made food, well, something edible adjacent. Want to try it?" Her stomach growled before her pride could say no. He brought over a steaming bowl of something gray, lumpy, and faintly humming. She sniffed it. He grinned. "It's called Grax stew. Found the recipe on a dead pirate's datapad. Probably shouldn't glow like that, but it hasn't killed me yet." She took a bite. It fizzed slightly. Her eyes widened. "It tastes like rubber and betrayal." "Perfect. That's exactly what it's supposed to taste like. You're adapting fast." She coughed, wiped her mouth, and set the bowl down. "I have to leave." Right now, you just recovered from being a sizzling pile of alien spaghetti. Take a moment, breathe. I'm a target, you don't want me here. I also don't want mold in my protein rations, but guess what? Life is full of disappointments. I could bring danger to your door. He raised an eyebrow. Danger already asterisk is at my door. I owe a debt to a mutant raccoon gang. Also, I think the pod's AI has developed a crush on me. So really, you're just adding spice. She paused. You're insane. He beamed. Thank you. Vera sank back into the couch, which groaned under her weight. Her limbs still ached. Her internal sensors buzzed with fragmented error codes. But for the first time in years, she wasn't on a mission. No handler in her ear. No orders. Just a scruffy mechanic with too much time and too little self-preservation instinct. You should call me by designation, she said after a moment. Zirenvel 97. Not happening, he replied. You'll always be Vera to me. It's easier to shout when you're about to blow up the microwave. She frowned. Why would I blow up? As if summoned, the microwave made a shrill noise and burst into sparks. See, he said smugly. Called it. She covered her face with her hands and groaned. He watched her quietly for once. Then said, You don't have to stay, but you can as long as you need. She looked at him between her fingers. Do you do this for everyone you find bleeding under a food stall? Nah, usually I ask for ID first. You didn't have any pockets. A long pause, then just a flicker. Her mouth twitched. It might have been the beginning of a smile. Or indigestion. Either way, Lennox took it as a victory. He turned toward the back of the pod. Well, I'm off to rewire the sanitation unit before it starts thinking again. Don't touch anything glowing unless you want your hair to fall out. She glanced at her still glowing arm. Too late, she muttered. From the back room he called, That's the spirit. And for the first time since her exile, Vera didn't feel like a malfunction. She felt chosen, however ridiculous that might be. Lennox had a theory, well, more of a half-baked suspicion, the kind he usually scribbled on napkins during late-night snack runs, that alien technology didn't hate him specifically, just his face asterisk. It was the only plausible explanation. Case in point, he was dangling upside down from a plasma conduit, wrapped in cables that had developed a sense of humor, while Vera stood nearby watching with an expression that said, I could help you, but watching is funnier. Can you maybe just pull that blue wire, not the glowing one unless you want to meet your ancestors in holographic flashbacks. She tilted her head. You asterisk have asterisk ancestors. Probably. One of them was a toaster salesman, I think, maybe part toaster. Vera crouched, extended one of her elegant, too-many-jointed fingers, and with precise, almost lazy motion, unplugged the wire. The entire conduit powered down with a relieved hiss. Lennox, still hanging, blinked. Oh, that was alarmingly effective, thank you. You're welcome, human of toaster descent. He tried to dismount gracefully. He did not succeed. The floor met his back with the soft crunch of defeat, and possibly a few snacks that had fallen there weeks ago. Vera loomed over him, her translucent skin catching the low light and refracting it like a moody disco ball. You were attempting to modify the security grid. I was asterisk enhancing asterisk it. There's a difference. The difference being, one of them sounds more impressive when you're asking for compensation after it explodes. She helped him up more gently than she intended. He nearly flew across the pod. Still adjusting the strength settings, she said, deadpan. No problem, I enjoy unplanned flying, clears the sinuses. Over the past 4 cycles, Vera had become less of a couch-bound mystery and more of a presence. Quiet, sharp-eyed, often vaguely threatening, but never quite threatening enough to stop Lennox from making jokes. She now wandered the pod like a wary cat, occasionally helping him tinker, frequently sighing at his questionable dietary choices, and always keeping her distance from the fridge, which had begun growling. They had fallen into a rhythm, strange but stable, until the message came. It arrived not by comms but embedded in a tool, an old neural tuner Lennox had picked up from a derelict cruiser the week before. As he activated it, its internal screen lit up with more than calibration data. Vera's body went still. The screen showed a symbol, sharp lines intersecting over a blood-red spiral. Her pulse skipped. Her mouth tightened. Lennox noticed, friend of yours. She stared unmoving. No, he offered, old landlord, evil cousin. It's a command seal, she said finally. Her voice had shifted, metallic edges smoothing into something almost resigned. It means they're looking for me. Lennox blinked. Ah, so not a party invitation then. Shut it off. He complied immediately. The screen flickered and died. The tuner hissed, smoked slightly, and then in what Lennox would later describe as a deeply personal betrayal, dissolved into goo. Vera stood with her arms crossed, eyes locked on some invisible point beyond the pod walls. "I thought you didn't have a signal," Lennox said softly. "I don't. This was passive, a trace in the frequency lattice, old trick." She shook her head. "They wouldn't waste a hunter yet. Not until they confirm, but they know I'm not dead." Lennox considered this. "Good news, they didn't know you were dead. Bad news, now they do asterisk no asterisk you're dead." She didn't laugh. She didn't even flinch. He leaned against the wall, folding his arms. "So what now? We run? Hide? Build a decoy with a wig and set it loose on a hoverboard." She turned toward him slowly. "Asterisk we asterisk don't do anything." "Oh no," he said, wagging a finger. "Don't pull that noble sacrifice, lone wolf. This is my burden nonsense. You think I dragged you out from under a radioactive shrimp sign just to ditch you the moment things get spicy? You don't understand. My people, if they come, it won't be subtle. Cities vanish. Colonies vanish. I'm not exaggerating. One time we erased a moon because someone hit a treaty violation in a crater. That seems thorough. We pride ourselves on efficiency." He rubbed his chin. "Okay, well, I have a plan." She gave him a long, flat stare. "I am terrified." "As you should be. Step 1, we upgrade the pod's shielding. Step 2, I get my hands on that cloaking core from the scrapyard." She frowned. "That thing's locked behind 37 layers of security and a cranky robot with a shotgun arm." "Exactly. That's why you are going to charm the robot." "I do not charm, I disintegrate." Tomato, tomato. Later that day, they arrived at the scrapyard. Lennox negotiated with the gate AI by pretending to be a maintenance inspector from Central Obsolescence, a department he may have made up on the spot. The AI was confused enough to let them in. Inside, Vera walked with a predatory grace, her scanners pinging every few steps. Lennox followed behind, trying not to trip over rogue engine blocks. "Fun fact," he said cheerfully, "this yard is technically illegal. Not for what it contains, but because it exists simultaneously in 2 jurisdictions. It's a tax loophole and a quantum crime." The first bounty hunter arrived wearing a smile and a suit that screamed, "Trust me, I'm definitely not here to kill you." Lennox opened the pod door and immediately regretted it. "Good morning." The man chirped, far too cheerful for someone on a rust-stained cargo deck. His teeth gleamed with suspicious confidence, and he held up a clipboard with a flourish. "I'm from Stellar Solar Solutions, here to offer you a once-in-a-lifetime upgrade to your energy grid, guaranteed to reduce your power consumption by 40% and probably not explode." Lennox blinked. "Is this a joke?" "No, sir. It's a asterisk lifestyle improvement asterisk, harnessing Starpor for a better tomorrow." The man leaned inconspiratorially. "Also, if you sign today, we throw in a free decorative comet crystal. Great for dates or mood lighting." Lennox considered slamming the door. Instead, he leaned out and squinted. "Are you holding a plasma blade under that clipboard?" The man sighed and lowered it. The blade ignited with a gentle asterisk F-whoosh. "You had to ruin it. Sorry, your sales pitch needed work. I worked really hard on it. Didn't even offer me coffee." "I was asterisk going asterisk too?" A bolt of energy seared past Lennox's ear and slammed into the bounty hunter's shoulder, sending him spinning into a heap of broken pipes. Smoke curled up from the impact zone and the clipboard flew into the air, landed face down, and caught fire. Lennox turned. Vera stood in the hallway, one hand raised, 2 fingers glowing faintly. "You hesitated." "I was trying to be polite. Politeness will kill you faster than incompetence." "Well, I've got both in spades, so I'm practically doomed." The bounty hunter groaned from the floor, his suit sparked, hissing in protest. Just a heads up," he muttered weakly. "They're not sending just me." Lennox knelt beside him. "You got a name, buddy?" "Yeah," he coughed. "It's Reginald. That's not real." No, it's not." A moment later, Vera disassembled his weapon using only a spoon and quiet malice. Lennox tied him to a crate with extension cords and stuck a sticky note on his forehead that read, "Try again with cookies." Then they both sat down in the main room, the hum of the cloaking core pulsing softly under their feet. Lennox had built a makeshift control panel out of old gaming console parts and a food processor. It worked. Mostly. "So," he said, flipping switches, "do we assume this was a one-time fluke or the start of a delightful parade of murder attempts?" Vera leaned against the wall. "Your sarcasm is irritating." "Which part?" The delightful or the parade? She ignored him. I'll take that as both, he muttered. For the next several hours, they prepped defenses. Lennox installed turrets salvaged from an abandoned asteroid arena. Vera adjusted the cloaking matrix to pulse intermittently, making it harder to trace. They rewired the security bot. It now greeted intruders with an aggressively friendly message. Hello, friend. Prepare to be disassembled. By the time they sat down for a meal, the pod was technically ready. The meal, however, was not. This is toast, Vera asked, poking it with a fork. Technically, I tried a new thermal plate setting called lava. It smells like melted feet. That's the cinnamon. She took a bite, her expression didn't change. Acceptable, barely. Lennox grinned. Progress. One day you'll beg for my culinary genius. One day I'll poison you in retaliation. That's how I'll know I've truly been accepted. As the pod settled into its nocturnal buzz of machinery and barely functioning life support, Vera retreated to her corner. A cluster of blankets, old data pads, and one aggressively sentient Roomba she was still trying to ignore. The Roomba beeped once at her, wheeled in a circle, and left to chase dust bunnies with vengeful intensity. Lennox sat at the console, watching the stars on a cracked monitor. His fingers hovered over the controls. So, he called out, "Your people, what exactly happens if they find you?" Reintegration, mind wipe, maybe public execution if they're feeling ceremonial. Harsh. They see deviation as corrosion. Guess I'm radioactive then. You're just loud. I get that a lot. A silence stretched. Vera didn't usually volunteer information, but tonight something in the air shifted. They called me a deviation, she said. Not because I disobeyed, but because I hesitated. I didn't destroy a target. I waited, watched, questioned. That's not allowed. He glanced over. Who was the target? A child, human, half genetic. Born from one of ours and one of yours, an ambassador's experiment. Illegal. Lennox's voice softened. Did the child survive? Yes, because I hesitated. He nodded slowly. So they decided you weren't programmable enough. Exactly. Well, he said, leaning back, I think you're incredibly programmable. You even started liking my toast. I tolerated it. Same thing. A sharp beep cut through the room. They both snapped to alert. Lennox checked the console. Unregistered ship scanning perimeter. Vera moved beside him, already glowing faintly. Do they see us? Not yet, we're ghosted, but they're sniffing. The ship passed. The console dimmed again. Lennox let out a breath. That was close. Vera didn't respond. She was still watching the monitor, still glowing. Hey, he said gently, you're safe here. She finally looked at him. You don't know that. True, but it sounds nicer than saying, hey, we're probably doomed. You're ridiculous. I'm what's left when everyone else runs. She paused. Why haven't you? He smiled faintly. Because I chose you, simple as that. She stared at him for a long time, then she walked away. The Roomba passed him with a judgmental beep. I know, buddy, Lennox muttered. I know. The door exploded at breakfast. One moment Lennox was buttering something that claimed to be bread but smelled faintly like lubricated sponge, and the next, a sonic blast knocked over the table, the condiments, and, most tragically, the only working coffee mug. He hit the floor with a squawk and instinctively threw the nearest object at the smoke pouring into the hallway. It happened to be a sandwich. It disintegrated in midair, as if the air itself had judged it unworthy of existence. Vera was already moving, smooth, focused, her left arm lighting up with a soft hum that meant someone was about to regret their life choices. Through the smoke stepped a figure in polished armor, painted crimson and black in proud diagonal slashes. A visor covered most of his face, but his stance screamed theater kid turned mercenary. Dramatic, slightly cocky, and trying too hard to look taller than he was. Zirenvel 97, he said, voice distorted but unmistakably smug. Your time of wandering is over. Lennox groaned from under the upside-down table. Is it too early in the week for monologuing? It feels too early. Vera stepped forward. Designation? Commander Eric's. Retrieval Class 2. I've been tasked with returning you to Central Regulation alive. A pause. Preferably intact. I'm flexible. Lennox peeked out. Do you guys get a discount on ominous entrance music, or is that just a cultural thing? Commander Eric's ignored him. You've proven unstable, deviant, a threat to protocol. Translation, Vera muttered. I made them uncomfortable by developing a conscience. A malfunction, Eric's corrected. We're here to repair it. She raised her hand. He raised his. The blast that followed shook the pod, fried half the console lights, and knocked Lennox backwards into the fridge. It hissed and locked itself with a self-preserving asterisk clang asterisk. Possibly out of spite. Vera lunged forward fast as light, her strike curving at the last moment. Eric's deflected barely, but she was already pivoting. Their bodies moved in an elegant rhythm: strike, dodge, counter, burn. Every move from her was efficient. Every move from him was calculated. Lennox watched, wide-eyed, from behind the smoldering remains of a chair. "I thought you guys were subtle," he shouted. "She was the subtle one." Eric snapped. "I'm the dramatic one." "Yeah, no kidding." Vera feinted left, then grabbed Eric's shoulder plate and slammed him into the wall. Sparks flew. The pod groaned as if considering whether to fall apart in protest. Eric's, to his credit, chuckled through the pain. "They said you'd gotten soft." She pressed her forearm to his throat. "Try me. Maybe later, right now / reinforcements." His suit blinked once, then released a sonic pulse that knocked Vera back several meters. She skidded, caught herself, and cursed in a language that sounded like a modem dying. Lennox stumbled toward the control panel. Okay, reinforcements bad, pod defense good. Come on, old girl, show me you still have teeth." He slammed a button marked not for emergency use because it was glowing the brightest. Outside, a rusted turret on the pod roof came to life with a metallic yawn, rotated 3 times in confusion, then locked onto Eric's ship hovering above the bay. It fired a single shot. The ship wobbled, coughed black smoke, and fell into the recycling bay with a dignified asterisk splat asterisk. Eric's helmet flickered. "That was asterisk new asterisk." "Yeah, well," Lennox grinned, "you parked in a no-hover zone." Eric's turned to run. Vera was faster. She tackled him mid-step, wrestled him to the ground, and without hesitation jabbed 2 fingers into a slot behind his neck. The suit powered down. "Impressive," Lennox said. "Efficient. Would have been more impressive if we didn't lose another dining chair in the process." Vera stood, chest heaving. He was a scout. "Oh, great," Lennox muttered. "What's next? A marching band with missile launchers." Vera crouched beside the unconscious Eric's and began extracting data chips from his armor with cold precision. "You do that a little too comfortably," Lennox noted. "I was designed for infiltration, extraction, elimination." Yeah, but can you bake cookies?" She blinked. "That was never in my protocols." "Well, we've got time, and no chairs, and a fridge that's locked itself into emotional withdrawal, so baking may be the only domestic option left." She didn't smile, but her voice lightened a fraction. "You're absurd. That's been medically confirmed." They dragged Eric's limp form to the storage closet, which had recently been demoted from panic room after it started leaking glitter inexplicably. Lennox tossed a blanket over the man and shut the door with a sigh. "So," he said, "how many more like him?" "At least 6. Good, just enough for a dinner party." Vera paused in the hallway. "He was someone I trained with years ago." "You okay?" "No. Want to hit something?" "I already did." He nodded. "Good talk." Later, they sat on the floor with scavenged cushions and a makeshift table built from a repurposed hover pallet. The lighting was dim. The air still smelled faintly of ozone and toasted anxiety. Vera finally broke the silence. "If I stay, they'll come. They're already coming. If I run, I might draw them away. And leave me here to defend the pod with kitchen utensils and bad ideas." Her silence was answer enough. He leaned back. "I didn't pick you up because I thought it'd be easy. I did it because I saw you. Not just glowing and twitching and scary, but you asterisk, and I thought she deserves a second shot. Or at least some toast." Vera looked down. Her voice was quieter than usual. "No one has ever said that to me before." "Yeah, well, most people have bad taste." She looked up. Her eyes met his. "You're not going to give up on me, are you?" "Not unless you steal my socks." "I already did." He blinked. "You what?" "They were warmer than mine." "That explains why my feet have been cold for 3 days." "I washed them." "Well, in that case, you can keep them." The Roomba rolled by, beeped in disapproval, and vanished under the console with a muttered beep-boop that sounded suspiciously judgmental. And just like that, with a warship somewhere in orbit and an unconscious assassin in the closet, the pod felt, if not safe, then something close to it, something like home. The ship crash-landed on the planet with the grace of a drunk giraffe attempting ballet. Lennox had precisely 3 seconds to yell something poetic before they hit the surface. What emerged from his mouth was, "AGHHHHHHHHHHMY tools," followed by an unpleasant crunch that may have been the rear stabilizer or the snack drawer. The cockpit went dark. Smoke curled from a console. The emergency light flickered like it was trying to decide whether to commit. Vera unstrapped herself with a click and calmly surveyed the tilted wreck. "We've arrived." Lennox groaned from the floor, one leg pinned beneath a seat that had given up on bolting itself to anything. Define arrived. Planetfall successful, minimal hull breach, atmosphere breathable. And she added, scanning with her ocular feed, the avocado survived. Lennox struggled upright, clutching a slightly bruised avocado that blinked at him. You're sure this thing's a navigation assistant? It's technically a symbiotic biointerface. It likes you. It tried to bite me yesterday. Affectionately. Outside the broken hatch, the planet shimmered in colors that didn't seem committed to existing in 3 dimensions. The sky pulsed. The ground made a soft humming noise when you stepped on it, like it was vaguely offended. Lennox limped out and looked around. This place feels sarcastic. That's accurate, Vera replied. It's called Grin. Lennox frowned. You brought us to a planet named Grin. Grin is a living organism, a biomechanical planetary intelligence, known for being enigmatic, mildly unhinged, and impossible to chart. I'm sensing some kinship here. I thought it would be safe. I crashed into a sarcastic sky. That was your flying. That was your asterisk coordinates. Are you going to argue the entire time? Only if we survive. A low giggle echoed across the canyon. The wind twisted itself into syllables. Survival, how quaint. Lennox jumped. Did the planet just talk? Vera nodded. It's rude to interrupt. Don't encourage it. You brought a human, Zirinvel 97. You must be truly desperate. I prefer the term resourceful, Lennox muttered. Also, I'm standing right here, sentient terrain. And leaking, Grin added. Lennox glanced down. His knee was bleeding, though it looked more like jam at this point. Fantastic. First a planetary roast, now personal attacks. Vera stepped forward. We seek shelter, temporary cloaking, passage. Asterisk payment. Lennox sighed. It always comes down to that. You human, Grin whispered, its voice now vibrating through the rocks. Make me laugh, he blinked. You want me to tell you a asterisk joke? Laughter is currency, pay or perish. Lennox turned to Vera. You couldn't have mentioned this earlier. I didn't think it would target you asterisk. Of course it's the face, it screams court jester. Okay, a joke. He cleared his throat. Why don't space pirates ever take a bath? Silence, even the wind paused. Vera tilted her head. Why? Because they always wash up on shore. The ground made a noise like a cough and a sigh having an existential crisis. That was tragically awful. But unexpected. Unexpectedly awful. You amuse me, human toaster, you may stay. Lennox blinked. Did it just call me? You told me one of your ancestors was a toaster salesman. I said asterisk, probably asterisk. It wasn't confirmed. They trekked across a field of sentient. The cold air of space had a way of making everything feel smaller. Or maybe that was just Lennox's ego shrinking under the glare of the approaching dreadnought. It loomed like a beast sculpted from obsidian nightmares, vast and silent, with enough firepower to vaporize a continent on a whim. Vera stood at the viewport, eyes like liquid stars reflecting the monstrous silhouette. You really know how to pick your welcome committees, Lennox muttered, fingers twitching near the control panel. I mean, a little heads up next time would be nice. Maybe a bouquet or something. Vera didn't respond. Her jaw was tight, her body coiled like a predator ready to strike. The pod systems hummed under the pressure of their predicament. Cloaking was at full power, but they both knew it wouldn't hold for long against something that size. We're on borrowed time, she said quietly. Lennox tried to lighten the mood. Borrowed time is better than none, right? Plus, I always wanted to know what it's like to live on the edge. Like those thrill-seekers who skydive without parachutes. Not that I recommend it. Vera cracked the tiniest smile. You're impossible. Impossibly charming, he replied with a wink that she definitely did not see. Suddenly, alarms blared, shrill, urgent, and terribly enthusiastic. The dreadnought's sensors had spotted them. They're coming in fast, Lennox said, fingers flying over the console. Prepare for the classic hide and maybe shoot maneuver. Vera raised an eyebrow. That's your battle plan. It's the only asterisk plan, he admitted. Plus, it's got style. The pod shimmered and blinked out a visible spectrum, disappearing from all but the most sophisticated scanners. But the dreadnought had more tricks. Its sensors warped and warped until they found a trace, a faint energy signature, the ghost of a cloaking field. Visual override engaged, Vera announced, voice steady but cold. They're locking on. Lennox grinned despite the situation. At least they didn't come with a choir. That would have been overkill. The pod's exterior thrummed as it absorbed the first salvo of energy pulses. Shields flickered, systems screamed in protest, and somewhere the sentient Roomba whirred defiantly. "They've underestimated us," Vera said, activating her own systems. Her limbs glowed with an eerie light, sensors flaring as she moved like liquid shadow through the cramped space. "Time to dance," Lennox said, sliding a panel open and flipping a switch labeled * Experimental Defense Protocol *. The pod shuddered as automated turrets emerged, spinning with a mechanical growl. Plasma bolts shot out, lighting up the void with bursts of electric blue. "Who knew a pod could throw a punch?" Lennox cheered. Vera smiled, teeth flashing. "You and your junkyard miracles." The Dreadnought's response was brutal. It unleashed drones, small but deadly, that swarmed like angry hornets. The pod's defenses blazed, vaporizing several, but not before one latched onto the hull, detonating with a shockwave that rattled the cabin. Lennox fell to his knees, coughing. Note to self, never park under a swarm. Vera grabbed his arm, steadying him. "We can't hold out forever." Yeah, I'm aware," Lennox wheezed. "But if we go down, I want it to be with a witty last line. Something about toast." "Exactly." Suddenly the pod jolted, systems rebooted, lights blinked back on, the Dreadnought's engines faltered. "How's that for a reboot?" Lennox said with a smirk. Vera looked impressed. "You didn't tell me you installed an EMP pulse." "I thought it was obvious." The pod emitted a low pulse that sent drones tumbling, sensors flickering out. The Dreadnought lurched, forced to pull back and regroup. "Temporary victory," Vera said, breathing heavily, "but they'll be back. And I'll have more bad jokes," Lennox promised. The two shared a rare moment of laughter amid the chaos, the kind that wasn't a reaction to fear but a defiant stand against it. As the Dreadnought faded into the starry distance, Vera turned to Lennox. "Why are you still here?" "You could escape." Lennox shrugged, pulling his worn jacket tighter. "Because no one else has wrapped me in their cloak and carried me home." She studied him, vulnerability flickering behind her alien eyes. "And because," he added, "sometimes being chosen makes all the difference." The stars blinked quietly outside the viewport, witnesses to a bond forged in fire and light, between a human and an alien who refused to be abandoned. The galaxy was vast, but for the first time it felt like home. The hum of the orbiting refuge was a lullaby in a language neither human nor alien, but somehow familiar, a soft, persistent vibration under the thin walls of the pod. Lennox sat cross-legged on the floor, fiddling with a small device that looked suspiciously like a toaster with extra blinking lights. Vera watched him from across the room, arms crossed, a hint of amusement in her luminous eyes. "So that's your great invention, a toaster with mood lighting?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Lennox grinned, flipping a switch. "It's a prototype. It can burn toast * and light up your existential dread." She snorted, a sound like a glitching synth. "You humans and your obsession with burnt bread." "Hey, it builds character." Vera leaned back against the wall. "I'm starting to understand why you survived this long. Either sheer stubbornness or bad luck for anyone who crosses you." "Both," Lennox agreed. "Mostly the latter, but you're a whole different story. You're different." She frowned slightly. Different is often code for broken. "Not in this case. You're like a star that refuses to burn out." Vera's gaze softened. "I never wanted to be a weapon. And yet here you are, somehow more human than most humans I know." She laughed softly. "Careful, or I'll start charging you royalties for that one." He raised an imaginary glass. "Cheers to unexpected friendships and stolen socks." The room was cluttered with gadgets, wires, and scattered data pads, evidence of Lennox's restless mind and Vera's tentative steps into curiosity. Outside, the blue giant glowed, casting shifting shadows that danced like silent watchers. "I built you a translator," Lennox said, holding up a sleek device. "Not the basic kind, either. This one can handle your dialect nuances, sarcasm included." Vera eyed it suspiciously. "Why would you invest so much effort?" "Because you asked for it, and because you're the first alien I've met who tolerates my cooking." She rolled her eyes. "Tolerance is not affection." Sure, but it's a start." With a tentative smile, Vera activated the device. Her voice modulated smoothly, carrying a melody that made Lennox wonder what her real name might sound like. "My name is Zirenvel 97, she said, "but you may call me Vera." "See, perfect," Lennox said. "Now I don't have to sound like I'm casting a spell every time I say your name." She regarded him thoughtfully. "You make a poor ambassador." "Maybe, but I make a great friend, and an even better snack provider." Vera's eyes sparkled with a humor that was almost shy. You and your snacks. As days passed in orbit, their conversations deepened beyond quips and repairs. Vera shared fragments of her past, missions, betrayals, the weight of expectations, and Lennox listened, sometimes silent, sometimes cracking a joke to bridge the unspoken. One evening, while recalibrating the pod's life support, Lennox asked, "Do you believe people can change?" Vera paused, her fingers steady on the controls. "I hope so, otherwise all this effort is meaningless." He smiled. "I think that's the best answer." The pod's soft alarms chimed, signaling an incoming message. Vera tapped the console, and a holographic face flickered into existence, an older woman with eyes like twin suns, filled with both warmth and command. "Zirin," the woman said, voice firm but gentle. "We've been searching for you. Return is possible. You belong with us." Vera's fingers tightened. "I am not who I was." The woman nodded, understanding. "Change is the hardest journey. We will support you, no matter your path." The message ended, leaving the room heavy with unspoken questions. Lennox looked at Vera. "Are you ready?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't know if I ever will be. But I know one thing. I'm not going back as the weapon they made me." He reached out, gently touching her hand. "Then stay. This is your home now if you want it." A smile flickered across her face, soft and real. "Thank you, Lennox, for choosing me." He shrugged. "Someone had to. Besides, who else would put up with my jokes?" The sentient Roomba whirred by, beeping in approval. And in the quiet orbit around a distant blue giant, two unlikely companions carved a space where hope could grow, imperfect, uncertain, but fiercely alive. The stars outside blinked indifferently, as if unaware that an entire galaxy's worth of chaos had just been narrowly sidestepped in a tiny pod orbiting a fading blue giant. Inside, Lennox stared at the console, which was currently displaying a cheerful little icon shaped suspiciously like a toaster. The thing was probably due for an upgrade, but he was tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from lack of sleep. No, this was the tired that settled into your bones after surviving things that should have killed you twice over. Vera sat opposite him, feet curled beneath her, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her skin still shimmered faintly, a residual glow from the last emergency energy pulse they'd unleashed against the Dreadnought scouts. But there was something else now beneath the surface. Calm, quiet strength. The kind you get when you've stopped running, stopped fighting shadows, and started standing your ground. "So," Lennox said, breaking the silence with the kind of forced cheerfulness that had gotten him through worse, "we didn't die. Again. Progress." Vera smirked, a slow, genuine curve of lips that made Lennox almost forget the chaos of the last few cycles. "Progress." He chuckled. "You know, if I had a nickel for every time we thought the universe was going to vaporize us, I'd have. Well, probably enough to buy a better toaster." She laughed, a sound like starlight breaking through clouds. "You should write a book. How to Survive Galactic Doom and Not Lose Your Socks. It'd be a bestseller." Vera's eyes softened, her gaze drifting to the viewport where the distant stars shimmered. "I'm not the same as when you found me." "No, you're not." He paused, watching her. "You've changed. You stopped being just a weapon. You became something more, maybe even yourself." She looked back at him. "And you? Why did you choose to carry me when everyone else turned away?" Lennox shrugged, the faintest smile tugging at his mouth. "Because sometimes what the world throws away is the most interesting thing you'll ever find. Also because I'm stubborn and have a terrible sense of timing. Your cooking is also terrible. Hey, you tolerated it." "Barely." He grinned. "Close enough." The pod hummed softly, a fragile sanctuary amidst the vast, uncaring void. Outside, the sentient Roomba zipped past, chirping as if in approval of their survival. "Do you regret coming here, staying?" Lennox asked, voice low. Vera considered. "I regret never being chosen before, never having someone carry me home, but now I have that, I have you. And I have you, which means I'm officially stuck with an alien with a tendency to accidentally disintegrate my